We're just doing a series of small interviews asking artists in the context of this larger art fair with Art Dubai happening, and then you have the SICA art fair now. Like how, when people come up to you, what you're...
Right. It's a bit loud. Sorry.
It's a bit loud. If you have an artist elevator pitch that you've been giving to people, that's like a 30-second description of your work, and then as a follow-up,
that's really difficult. I don't know how.
And then as a follow-up question to that, at the times that you have to give that, small pitch that people are coming through quickly, what that leaves out about your larger practice. So
difficult. All right, I will try to be quick.
Okay.
So shall I talk about it in the wide sense, because the rest of the work is an Art Dubai now, so it's like it's one piece.
Okay. And would you say your name too?
Okay. My name is Deniz Uster.
Okay.
I'm from Istanbul, but I'm based in Glasgow.
Okay.
So, and Dubai is the only third place that I'm staying for that long, really, for 3 months. So I thought dedicating 3 wind catchers, but like sort of vagrant wind catchers, to these 3 cities would be quite relevant. And I make kinetic sculptures and films, and I always convert the functionality of these mechanisms. And I thought, well, wind catchers are like, one of the very first mechanisms here. So I thought, what if I change the capturing function of it and turn them into disseminating monuments? So this Glasgow, which is this sort of small Glasgow landscape, like this tree growing from within this car tire, and then very industrial looking expanding foam consistently rains on it, like it's typical Glasgow for me. So that's the humidity disseminating part of it. Whereas the Art Dubai bits, the Istanbul and Dubai, one of them is a massive coffee mixer, like a Turkish coffee mixer. So that's the sand part of it. Yeah, and the Dubai one is this big crane raising up from this desert, beating the drum, like beating a traditional drum. So it's sort of very meditative, and that's the sound part of the work. So yeah, sort of shortish, yeah.
Okay.
So,
what about your larger practice? Are you always exploring kind of different locations?
In my work, I'm very much into like folk and folk stories, especially Anatolian folk stories, because I'm from Istanbul. Yeah. But with my move to Glasgow, all this industrial, the kinetics, the steel came into my work. So in my work, I sort of, the storytelling I'm so much into, and also I write myths, but myths from the future, so that you see sort of some familiar rituals that you might remember from somewhere, like vaguely familiar, or some more specific forms. But they're all integrated with this, for example, like big wind turbines or some more industrial parts of it. But it's always very integrated with sort of this natural, sort of more sort of, how can I say, like, some parts of it quite shamanic and then pagan, but also with the sort of like Turks accepting Islam, there's this sort of small Islamic traces in it as well. So they're all sort of mixed up. So that's why I'm very much into hybrid as well. That's why this wind catcher doesn't really have that one look like, it's Persian or Emirati, but it has suburbs of Istanbul, here, and then sort of castles of Scotland, and then the gold bit is more sort of this Emirati relevance to it. So, yeah, that's what I do. Yeah.
Okay. And what have you thought about, so you have a piece here and then also a piece at the fair, and what's it been like to have a piece installed in a courtyard at SICA, outside of the residency program you're part of, and then also to have it in a more kind of fabricated space at Art Dubai?
Well, it is. I think in both of the places, depending on the feedback I got, everyone says that it feels quite like embedded into the space. So, I quite enjoy, although they're all, like, I fabricate them all with my hands, by the way, I really make it without any help. But on the other hand, I quite enjoy modesty, so I also enjoy the work embedded into the space rather than like standing out and shouting, I'm here. Yeah. So I think this already feels like as though it was here all this time. So it's sort of suited to Bastakia. Yeah. And I think it's quite the same with Art Dubai as well. But of course, when it is very busy, the sound might get lost a little bit. But when it is more quieter, when it is just to really view the work, so you can experience like both of them. So I thought, just because Bastakia needed this humidity, some water, I thought Glasgow Tower would be more relevant because there's a sort of pond-like place in Art Dubai. Okay. So yeah, like they have this name called somewhere in the middle of two, southwest of one and north of the other. So like all these three cities, although they're located in like completely different bits, like it all depends on, it's actually quite a subjective thing to decide which one is west, which one is east. It all depends on where you locate yourself and where you look to it. That's why I don't like specifically like, right, this is the Glasgow Tower, it's the, you know, west part, and this. I don't want to sort of those sort of cheesy implications. So I quite enjoy giving this sort of vague and unsettled sort of feeling to people, so that, you know, they can start writing their stories in. So that would make them to think about the work when they go home as well. So that's quite important for me, rather than finishing it after looking at the work. You know, right, I now understood it, I put it here. No, that's not what I like.
And what about, so just one last question for you. So is this your first time in Dubai?
Oh yeah, definitely.
And how did the A.i.R residency influence your kind of sense of place in Dubai? Because you were talking about cranes as being emblematic here and a couple of other elements. Mm-hmm. So I'm just wondering what...
But before coming here, I made a small maquette of Glasgow Tower, because I already knew what I'm going to build, because I mean I already was in Glasgow and I already have been in Istanbul. I was in Istanbul, so I left the Dubai one completely blank. And then when I came here, before starting fabricating them, I really left myself into the city. And I'm keeping this blog. You can see a massive printed book of it, or you can read about it. I can give it to you. So it was
what's
all
the
about
name of the blog?
Deniz's Dubai residency. I got blogspot.com. Okay. So it's like I actually enjoyed observing much more, thinking about my work, but just very sightless, because that was my thing before coming here. I said, I'm not going to have any prejudices about space, because it's so easy to hear like bad things about Dubai. Say, oh, high buildings, oh, air conditioner. It's like people are normally like that. But once you close your ears to that, and once you sort of embrace what is here and why it is like that, and all these sort of coexistence of all these sort of different bits and pieces, they were really influential. So that's how I built my Dubai tower.
And when you're talking about coexistence, I mean, you cohabitated this residency space with 3 Emirati artists. Did you feel like you learned more from them about...
Oh, definitely. Like, especially just because I'm so much into sort of anthropological side of the work. It's like, how the folk, what do they do, how these things happen. I talked loads with them, and then they're really very good friends of mine. I already invited them to Glasgow, especially I love Hadiya and Zainab. Oh, Nasser as well. He's such a cute, such a sweet person. So yeah, especially talking wise, like hearing more about it, because I mean people normally say, some people living here, they say that, oh, they never really had a chat with an Emirati person. It's like, oh really, I have very good Emirati friends, so I could sort of felt quite lucky to really learn what is going on. For example, one thing I learned was really interesting. I was asking my friend, like, how was it like before 1971, before the UAE was established? And then she said, well, my elders would know, And then it was quite surprising. It's like, what, really? You don't know, like, how it was done? But just because, like, very, very previously in Turkey, here, just because it's such a nomadic culture, it was such a nomadic culture until that time, they didn't have any sort of, like, a permanent something written. It was all about the storytelling. It was all about told to sort of the other generation. And then now the elders started to write about the prehistory of UAE, and that's just amazing, like seeing a country really being constructed and being sort of like growing up that much in such a short time. So I never experienced this anywhere really, so I'm just watching, just amazed, and it's so amazing to be part of it, and even not just watching, like being able to change it, put your trace in it. So it's quite fun.
Okay.
Thank you. Thanks.